On this channel, we break down nutrition, inflammation, and healing the way your biology actually works, not the popular way. Most people think turmeric is already one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory foods on the planet, and they're right. But here's the problem. Turmeric by itself is poorly absorbed by the body. So today, I want to show you what to add to turmeric to dramatically increase its anti-inflammatory power. And no, it's not black pepper. There's something far more effective, especially if you're dealing with chronic inflammation, joint pain, insulin resistance, or autoimmune issues. Most people sprinkle turmeric on their food, believing they've just activated one of nature's most powerful anti-inflammatory medicines. But what almost no one tells you is that without fat, turmeric is practically useless inside your body. And that single mistake is why millions feel no benefit at all. Turmeric's power comes from curcumin, a compound so potent it's been shown in research to shut down inflammatory pathways linked to arthritis, heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and even cancer. Yet despite this power, curcumin has one fatal weakness. Your body cannot absorb it on its own. Here's the shocking truth. Studies have shown that when curcumin is consumed without fat, less than 1% actually enters the bloodstream, meaning over 99% passes through your digestive system unused, wasted, and ineffective. That means every turmeric tea, turmeric water, or fat-free-turmeric capsule you've taken may have done almost nothing. Not because turmeric doesn't work, but because it was never delivered to your cells. Curcumin is fat-soluble, not water-soluble. And this single biochemical fact changes everything about how turmeric should be used. Fat-soluble compounds require fat to cross the intestinal barrier, enter the lymphatic system, and reach tissues where inflammation lives. Without fat, curcumin simply cannot cross that barrier. When curcumin is combined with healthy fats, absorption increases dramatically, sometimes by several 100%, allowing it to circulate longer, penetrate deeper, and actually reach inflamed joints, arteries, the brain, and immune tissues. This is why traditional cultures that use turmeric daily almost always cooked it in fat ghee in India, coconut oil in Southeast Asia, long before modern science could explain why it works so well. They didn't have clinical trials, but they had results. Modern research later confirmed what ancient medicine already knew. Curcumin dissolved in fat bypasses rapid liver breakdown and enters the lymphatic system, a pathway that allows it to circulate without being immediately neutralized. This is the same pathway used by fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. When curcumin reaches the bloodstream in meaningful amounts, it begins shutting down NF-κB, one of the most powerful inflammatory switches in the human body, a switch that, when left on, is linked to chronic pain, autoimmune disease, insulin resistance, and accelerated aging. It also suppresses COX-2 enzymes, the same inflammatory enzymes targeted by pain medications, but without damaging the gut lining, kidneys, or cardiovascular system the way those drugs do. In joints, fat-delivered curcumin has been shown to reduce stiffness and pain comparable to common anti-inflammatory drugs, yet without the side effects that make those drugs dangerous long-term. In the brain, absorbed curcumin crosses the blood-brain barrier, something few natural compounds can do, where it reduces neuroinflammation, oxidative stress, and beta-amyloid accumulation linked to cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease in the liver. It helps reduce fat accumulation and inflammation that drive non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, one of the fastest-growing chronic conditions worldwide. But none of this happens without fat. Without fat, curcumin never arrives at its destination. This is why simply increasing the dose doesn't work. Taking more turmeric without fat doesn't increase absorption. It just increases waste. The body doesn't absorb curcumin based on quantity alone. It absorbs it based on delivery. Healthy fats like coconut oil, MCT oil, ghee, olive oil, avocado oil, and even full-fat dairy act like transport vehicles, carrying curcumin safely through digestion and releasing it where inflammation actually exists. Heat further amplifies this effect. Gently warming turmeric with fat increases solubility, allowing curcumin to fully bind to lipids, creating a form your body recognizes and absorbs efficiently. This is why turmeric cooked into soups, stews, eggs, vegetables, or bone broth consistently outperforms turmeric taken raw or mixed into water. There's also a metabolic advantage. Fat slows gastric emptying, giving curcumin more time to be absorbed while stabilizing blood sugar. which reduces inflammatory spikes that would otherwise cancel turmeric's benefits. This is especially critical in people with insulin resistance or chronic inflammation, where blood sugar swings actively trigger inflammatory responses. When turmeric is taken with fat as part of a low-sugar whole food diet, its effects compound over time. Inflammation lowers, oxidative stress decreases, and tissues finally get the chance to repair instead of constantly being damaged. What's even more remarkable is that consistent low doses of fat-activated turmeric outperform large sporadic doses taken incorrectly. This isn't about megadoses, it's about daily delivery. Your cells don't need floods of curcumin. They need steady, absorbable amounts that can accumulate in tissues over time. This explains why some people swear turmeric changed their lives, while others say it did nothing. The difference isn't the spice, it's the fat. In a world where chronic inflammation is now considered the root cause of most modern disease, understanding this single principle can determine whether turmeric becomes one of the most powerful tools in your daily routine or just another wasted supplement. When curcumin is absorbed correctly, it doesn't just mask inflammation. It helps reset inflammatory signaling at a cellular level, supporting long-term healing rather than short-term relief. This is why adding fat isn't optional. It's essential. Turmeric without fat is potential. Turmeric with fat is power. And once you understand that, you stop using turmeric the popular way and start using it the way your biology actually demands. For years, black pepper has been marketed as the magic key to unlocking turmeric's power, repeated so often that it's become accepted as fact. Yet what most people don't realize is that this popular advice may be quietly sabotaging their gut, their digestion, and their long-term health. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine, and on paper, it sounds impressive because studies show piperine can slow the breakdown of curcumin in the liver, allowing curcumin to stay in the bloodstream longer. But this is only half the story, and it's the half no one talks about. Piperine doesn't actually help curcumin enter your cells. It doesn't improve how curcumin is absorbed through the intestinal wall, and it doesn't escort curcumin to inflamed tissues where healing needs to happen. It simply interferes with the liver's detox enzymes. That interference may sound helpful, but it comes at a cost. Piperine works by inhibiting cytochrome P450 enzymes, the same enzymes your liver relies on to process toxins, medications, and hormones. When these enzymes are blocked, it doesn't just affect curcumin, it affects everything else passing through your system. This means black pepper can alter how medications are absorbed, how long drugs stay active in the body, and how toxins are cleared, creating unpredictable effects that are rarely mentioned on supplement labels. But the most overlooked issue is what piperine does to the gut. Research shows that piperine increases intestinal permeability by disrupting tight junctions in the gut lining. In simple terms, it makes the gut wall more permeable. This is exactly what people with leaky gut, autoimmune conditions, IBS, acid reflux, or chronic inflammation are trying to avoid. Increased gut permeability allows bacterial toxins, undigested food particles, and inflammatory compounds to leak into the bloodstream, triggering immune reactions that fuel inflammation instead of reducing it. So, while black pepper may increase curcumin's presence in the blood for a short time, it can simultaneously worsen the very inflammatory conditions people are trying to heal. This creates a dangerous contradiction. You're taking turmeric to calm inflammation, yet pairing it with a compound that may inflame the gut and overstimulate the immune system. This helps explain why some people experience bloating, burning, nausea, or stomach pain when they take turmeric supplements with black pepper, yet assume turmeric simply doesn't agree with them. In reality, it's often the piperine. Even more concerning is that piperine doesn't discriminate by slowing liver detoxification. It can amplify the effects of caffeine, blood pressure medications, blood thinners, antidepressants, and other commonly used drugs, increasing the risk of side effects without the person ever realizing why. This is especially risky for older adults who are more likely to be on multiple medications and more vulnerable to liver overload. Another overlooked fact is that the bioavailability boost from piperine is temporary and superficial. Piperine doesn't help curcumin enter fat tissue, joints, or the brain more efficiently. It only slows how fast the liver clears it. That's not true absorption. That's delayed elimination. True absorption means curcumin actually enters cells, integrates into membranes, and reaches the sites of inflammation. Piperine doesn't do that. Healthy fats do. Fat doesn't interfere with detox pathways. Fat doesn't irritate the gut lining. Fat doesn't alter drug metabolism unpredictably. Instead, fat works with your biology, not against it. When curcumin is paired with fat, it's absorbed through the lymphatic system, a pathway specifically designed for fat-soluble compounds. This road allows curcumin to bypass the liver's first pass metabolism entirely, reducing the need for enzyme inhibition in the first place. This is a cleaner, safer, and more physiologically intelligent method of absorption. Traditional cultures never relied on black pepper alone to activate turmeric. Turmeric was always cooked into fat-rich dishes, simmered slowly, combined with ghee, coconut milk, or oils. Black pepper was optional, not essential. Modern supplement marketing flipped this narrative because adding piperine was cheaper than formulating fat-based delivery systems. Convenience replaced biological wisdom. But the body hasn't changed. Your gut hasn't changed. Your liver hasn't changed. What has changed is the rate of chronic gut inflammation, autoimmune disease, food sensitivities, and digestive disorders, all of which are now at historic highs. In this context, blindly adding piperine to everything is not harmless. It may push an already stressed digestive system even further out of balance. This is why many people report that turmeric works better for them. When taken in food rather than capsules, food naturally contains fat. Food slows absorption. Food respects digestion. When turmeric is taken without piperine, but with fat, it delivers steady, sustained anti-inflammatory effects without irritating the gut or interfering with detoxification. This approach doesn't create spikes, it creates balance, and balance is where healing actually happens. The biggest myth is that stronger always means better. Piperine creates a sharper spike in curcumin levels, but spikes are not the goal. Chronic inflammation isn't solved with spikes. It's solved with consistency and tolerance. A compound that inflames the gut while boosting absorption is not a solution. It's a trade-off. And when it comes to long-term health, trade-offs always come due. This is why black pepper isn't the universal answer it's been sold as. For some people, in small amounts, it may not cause noticeable issues. But for millions dealing with silent gut inflammation, it may be doing far more harm than good. Understanding this changes everything. It shifts the focus from shortcuts to systems, from hacks to harmony, from temporary boosts to sustainable healing. Turmeric doesn't need your liver to be tricked. It needs your digestion to be supported. And once you stop relying on black pepper and start respecting how your body actually absorbs nutrients, turmeric stops being a gamble and starts becoming a reliable ally in reducing inflammation the way nature intended. Most people think inflammation is something you attack once, something you hit hard with a supplement, a pill, or a short burst of motivation. But the truth is far more unsettling. Inflammation is not an event. It's a daily process. And that's why consistency matters more than anything else you do. Chronic inflammation doesn't come from one bad meal or one stressful day. It's built slowly, meal by meal, spike by spike, habit by habit, until the body is locked in a constant low-grade immune response that quietly damages joints, blood vessels, nerves, and organs year after year. This is why taking turmeric once in a while, even if absorbed perfectly, rarely changes anything long-term. The body doesn't heal from inflammation through occasional effort. It heals through daily signals that tell it whether to inflame or repair. Research shows that inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha rise and fall based on daily inputs. What you eat, how often you eat, how high your blood sugar spikes, how much oxidative stress your cells face. These markers don't respond to extremes. They respond to patterns. This is where turmeric either becomes powerful or pointless. Small, consistent doses of properly absorbed curcumin send a repeated message to the immune system. Stand down, reduce damage, allow repair. Over time, these signals accumulate, lowering baseline inflammation rather than temporarily masking it. This explains why studies repeatedly show that moderate daily curcumin intake outperforms high-dose short-term supplementation when it comes to joint pain, metabolic health, and inflammatory disease markers. The body trusts what it sees repeatedly, not what it sees occasionally, but consistency alone isn't enough if inflammation is constantly being re-triggered. This is where lifestyle quietly overrides supplements. Every spike in blood sugar creates a spike in inflammation. High glucose levels generate advanced glycation end products, compounds that stiffen tissues, damage blood vessels, and activate inflammatory pathways at a cellular level. One high sugar meal can elevate inflammatory markers for hours. If turmeric is taken on top of a high sugar, high refined carb diet, it's like pouring water on a fire while gasoline is still being added. The supplement isn't weak. The environment is hostile. Seed oils compound the problem. Oils like soybean, corn, canola, and sunflower are high in omega-6 fatty acids that oxidize easily and directly fuel inflammatory signaling. Research has linked excessive omega-6 intake to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, arthritis, and metabolic dysfunction. This means turmeric cannot work optimally if the diet is built on foods that biologically oppose its function. Inflammation is not neutral territory. It's either being fed or starved every day. Intermittent fasting changes this environment dramatically. Periods without food lower insulin, reduce oxidative stress, and activate cellular cleanup processes like autophagy. During fasting, inflammatory pathways are naturally suppressed, which allows anti-inflammatory compounds like curcumin to work more efficiently. Studies show fasting reduces inflammatory markers independently of weight loss, meaning the benefit comes from metabolic rest, not just fewer calories. When turmeric is used during this lower inflammation window, its effects are amplified. The body is no longer fighting against constant metabolic noise. It can finally listen. Vitamin D status plays a similar role. Low vitamin D is strongly associated with chronic inflammation, autoimmune disease, and poor immune regulation. Curcumin works synergistically with adequate vitamin D, but struggles in a deficient state. Magnesium is another silent factor. Magnesium deficiency increases inflammatory stress at the cellular level, disrupts glucose control, and impairs energy production. Without magnesium, inflammation rises no matter how many anti-inflammatory compounds you consume. This is why turmeric cannot be isolated from the bigger picture. Supplements don't override physiology, they work within it. Consistency also protects the gut. Large and frequent doses of turmeric can overwhelm digestion and cause discomfort, while smaller daily doses allow the gut lining to adapt, tolerate, and absorb curcumin without irritation. This matters because the gut is where inflammation often begins. Over 70% of the immune system is associated with gut tissue. A supplement that stresses digestion will never fully reduce inflammation systemically. Consistency builds tolerance. Tolerance builds absorption. Absorption builds results. There's also a neurological component. Chronic inflammation affects the brain, altering pain perception, mood, motivation, and energy levels. When inflammation slowly lowers over weeks and months, people don't just feel less pain. They think more clearly, sleep better, and regain motivation they didn't realize inflammation had stolen. This is why people often quit too early. They're waiting for a dramatic moment, not realizing healing often feels subtle at first. Less stiffness, slightly better sleep, a calmer gut. These are signs inflammation is retreating, but only if the signals are repeated. Your immune system doesn't respond to intentions. It responds to inputs. Every day sends a vote toward inflammation or repair. Turmeric used consistently with proper absorption in a low sugar, low seed oil environment, supported by fasting minerals and metabolic stability, becomes part of a system rather than a standalone fix. This system slowly resets inflammatory thresholds. What once triggered pain no longer does. What once caused flare-ups becomes manageable. This is not dramatic medicine. It's effective medicine. The biggest mistake people make is treating inflammation like an emergency instead of a lifestyle. Emergency thinking leads to inconsistency. Consistency leads to healing. When turmeric is used daily, gently, correctly, it doesn't fight the body. It partners with it, and when the body finally receives the same anti-inflammatory message day after day, it does what it was always designed to do: repair, regulate, and recover. That's when turmeric stops being just a spice or a supplement and becomes a signal of long-term change. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, make sure to try turmeric the right way, not the popular way. I'll see you in the next.